Hi, I'm Mandy Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Capricorn for August 2017. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, check out what's new on my blog, and if you would love to learn astrology in a deeper way for your own self-development or to do it professionally, check out my astrology apprenticeship program on my website. So what's going on in this wonderful month of August where we have powerful eclipses at play that are continuing this reshuffling of energy in the Aquarius and Leo polarities that started at the beginning of 2017 and goes well into 2019. The eclipses are the main focus for this month, so I'm going to focus on where you might expect to see these changes, this reshuffling of energy for your Capricorn placement, and then I'll also go into some more aspects and transits that will affect everyone for the month of August at the end of that report. So we have eclipses at play, and if you pay attention, you will notice that during the times the eclipses are occurring, major changes are afoot, major transformation. Non-negotiable news comes in, major closings of energy, major openings of energy. The universal principle that energy is never created nor destroyed, it simply changes form, is wildly at very obvious play during this time, as things close out in a big way and new things open up in a big way. So we'll talk about some of the general energies of what that can look like for everyone, and then we'll talk about where that's happening for Capricorn. But in general, one of the stories that is working out here between 2017 and 2019 has to do with the restructuring of the energy of group and organization and your relationship to group, societal norms, etc., and the individual's creativity, the individual's passion and purpose. So restructuring in those arenas. I had a few people ask me, since I had put out there in the July horoscopes that think back to 2008 and 2009 to see where these eclipses hit then. Well, basically to see what major changes you were experiencing then, because those are the same places you're going to be experiencing major changes at this point. And many people said, well, hey, the market crash was in 2008, so is that going to happen again? So I don't think that's going to happen again. I think that the eclipse, I think that the market collapse had to do with Pluto moving into Capricorn and making a very big grand entrance at that, and had a little less to do with the eclipses, although the eclipses are relevant because that experience fed into this restructuring of the organizations, the large organizations, which is ruled by this eclipse cycle, and which we will continue to see more of this shuffling around for organizations for sure. And also many people who lost everything had to go back and recreate their lives, and many people decided to do that in a very different way than they had before, having to do more with their own passions, not with what society had told them to do, because many people did what everyone said they should do, and they still lost everything. So in those ways, I see that those stories will continue to be worked on, but I'm definitely not predicting a major market crash like we saw in 2008. Okay, so lunar eclipses cause dramatic closings, endings, or coming to fruition of things. The early degree placements, so that's Caps with their birthdays in around the first 10 days of the sign, or if you're watching for your rising sign, 0 to 9 degrees or so, you all will likely have this energy in your second house. The second house has to do with finances, your individual income, material assets, self-esteem, self-worth as it relates to material things, not just general self-esteem, but like your relationship to the material realm and values, your values in general. So there's a restructuring of values going on here, and for some of you, it will actually be an ending in a form of earned income. That could be a welcome ending, or it could be a surprise ending, but don't worry about it, because like we talked about, with something that's taken away, something is given. So we'll talk about what's being given when we get up to the solar eclipse part. But it is the energy for the early degree placements of something in that second house of material realms being removed or coming to a fruition and ending. The middle and later degree placements, some of the middle could lean on that second house side. But in general, the middle and late degree placements are going to experience this lunar eclipse on August 7th, 15 degrees Aquarius, in your first house. So this has to do with the vision of yourself that you're putting out into the world. This has to do with your physical body. So if you have symptoms that are being ignored, if you're not taking care of your physical body, there could be some sort of culmination and a wake-up call. Or you could just decide, hey, I'm no longer this, whatever your profession is, I'm now this. You know, many people see themselves very differently than their profession, and yet many people know other people by their profession. They're a doctor, they're this, they work at this store, etc. So this is a time of ending, of a reshuffling in how you're putting yourself out into the world and how you're relating to your physical body. So definitely don't ignore any symptoms. And if you've been wanting to do something different with your health and your physical body and your relationship and your self-esteem, this is a really good time for that. The solar eclipse energies open up new things. So on August 21st, there's this second new moon in Leo, which is very powerful, and there's a solar eclipse, and there's these beautiful aspects with Uranus and Saturn, making these huge openings to counteract or to refill the space that is removed by the lunar eclipses taking things away. So you early and middle degree placements will be experiencing that in your 8th house. Now the theme that's true for all early, middle, and late degree Cap placements is that there's a new opening in your relationship space. The early and middle degree placements have it more in the 8th house of the relationships, and then the later degree placements have it more in the 7th house. The 7th house has to do with the relationship itself, one-on-one relationship of any kind. And then the 8th house has to do with relationships with you and someone else and your resources and your money and your power and your, whatever you have that you're bringing with you. Could also be relationships with financial institutions, capital, companies, borrowing money, loaning money, etc. So the individual energy is being eclipsed out in favor of this opening with this relationship space. So maybe for those of you with the early degree placements, maybe your earned income is closing out, but maybe your spouse's support of you increases, but there's definitely this merging deeper into relationship space while following your individual passions. So there's this focus on self within the relationship, and then this blending more into relationships with others and things that other people have worked for that you can benefit from, and merging your power with other people. So the 8th house also has to do with esoteric studies and psychology, and astrology is in 2 places in the chart, but it's in the 8th house as one of the placements. So a deep study into how people's minds work, your own psychology, other people's psychology, spiritual topics. There could be a huge opening or advancement or opportunity along the lines of studying the lesser seen realms. And that's more for the early and middle degree placements. But we're not going to close it out for the late degree placements because it's really close to the line there for most of you. So those are the things that are most on my mind as far as where the eclipses are opening up space and closing things out for you personally. Now I want to talk about some of the general implications of the eclipses, and then also the general transits. One important thing to note, and I'll touch on this more later, is that even though the eclipses are bringing in opportunities, they're bringing in opportunities in the midst of a retrograde, a Mercury retrograde. So as information comes in, just know that you might not know the full story yet. So if you can wait on acting on it, especially if it's getting close to August 11th or 12th or 13th when Mercury goes retrograde, try to hold off till the middle or end of September if you can before you actually do something permanent and make a decision about what's coming to be worked with, if possible, unless it's something that's short term. If it's something 6 months or less, or 6 to 9 months or less, it's fine to make those commitments because Mercury in retrograde rules a short-term energy. But if you have to make like a 2-year commitment or beyond, or a lifetime commitment, those are the things that you want to try to steer, if you can, if the nature of what's coming in will let you put it off a little bit, you'll want to wait till you have a little more more information. Okay, so now let's talk about those general transits. So the eclipses definitely dominate the astrological scene for August for all signs, but there are other aspects that I want to talk about that will affect you as well, and this will affect all signs. Right from the beginning, we've got Jupiter in Libra square Pluto in Capricorn. This is the third time that this has happened. The first time was November 24th of 2016. The second pass was March 30th of 2017. And here on August 4th, we have the final chapter. So this has been an ongoing saga having to do with the challenges of connecting with people in order to bring about something into the world. Jupiter in Libra has to do with relationships. Pluto in Capricorn has to do with business and things in the outer view, the public eye. And a square is a conflicted angle. So that means there's something to push through in order to get to the outcome. So the impetus lies in the aspect and also the blocks, so that's what brings the frustration, is that there's this pressure to join together and get something out into the world. But then the blocks and the challenges are also wrapped up in the transit. So there should be some resolution, some final conclusion here. One of the pieces is going to have to do with competition. Whenever we subscribe to the third dimensional belief in competition, there always creates this hamster wheel angst that you never really get out of. But one of my favorite teachers, Florence Scovel Shin, always says, or said, as I read her work, she's passed now a long time ago, there's no competition on the spiritual planes. And that's true. Infinite Spirit has a purpose for us that only we can fill. And you can take marketing data into consideration, you can take third dimensional realities into consideration. But ultimately, what you do in this world has to do with you and Infinite Spirit and your purpose. So the more you can ease into that higher vibrational view of this, whatever you're merging together to do to bring out into the world, you're going to have a much better experience and much better outcomes. So even though I give you the dates of these transits, remember that you can always have the possibility to feel the energies in a manifestation before or after that date. Okay, so don't hang your hat too heavily on the dates that I give you. So also important to note that I am giving you information about specific transits, as I always do, but you can get a more detailed write-up of the general transits that affect everyone when you sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. I send out a month early a written version of the summary of the energy of the month ahead, along with some highlights. If you have signed up for my newsletter already and you're not getting it, I send it out every month early, like clockwork, usually a month early. So if you're not getting it, it's probably going into social promotions, events folder or something like that. So check in there, spam, check in there and move it back into your inbox so that you can get them in a timely basis. Okay, so we talked about the eclipses at length as far as the individual effects for the signs, but we do have general effects for the eclipses as well. The first one is on August 7th. It's a full moon lunar eclipse at 15 degrees of Aquarius. We're moving along this continuum that started at the beginning of 2017 that has to do with a reshuffling of energy in the arenas of large organizations, humanitarian efforts, internet-based projects, teams, groups, friendships, circles, whatever kind of circles you find yourself in. That's all Aquarius. So some sort of reshuffling of energy. Some people will be focusing more in those realms, and some people will be focusing more on their own individual desires against the societal norms, which we'll talk about when we get over to the solar eclipse for later in the month. But this lunar eclipse is coming packing a lot of punch because the event also opposes Mars, which increases the likelihood of some sort of conflicted ending or a conflicted completion. Full moon eclipses tend to bring lots of drama, lots of emotion, and some sort of culmination, an ending or something coming to fruition. But with that aspect with Mars, it could be a conflicted ending. There's also a simultaneous nice aspect with Saturn that could bring very positive and strong foundation for present and future security. And there's an additional trine with Jupiter. Anything having to do with a wonderful aspect with Jupiter always is going to bring more enthusiasm, more hope, more faith, and expanded outcomes. So we've got some sweet aspects on the 10th and 11th and 12th. Then on the 12th and 13th, depending on which time zone you're in, Mercury is going to go into retrograde, and that will be at 11 degrees of Virgo. Mercury goes retrograde 3 or 4 times a year. So we really spend half of our lives in one part of the retrograde transit, either the shadow period that occurs before or the shadow period that occurs after, or the actual retrograde. You can look at my video called Mercury Retrograde if you do a search for Annie Botticelli, Mercury Retrograde. I talk about the do's and don'ts and the understandings that it's important to carry. But basically, a lot of pressure is put on weak links that already exist with communication devices, mobility, transportation devices. So any weak links that are there are going to be turned up, so old things that were swept under the rug as far as communication often just blow right out to be dealt with. And often things, people, ideas from the past roll in now for reconsideration. It's not always the best time to make the long-term decision if you can help it. So even though these eclipses and retrograde are going to bring some things right into the forefront, if you can wait until later into September, like at least mid to end September, to really commit to a longer term situation, that would be better because you're not going to have all the information. Okay, so we've got a nice aspect with the Sun and Saturn on August 13th, where your desires receive enthusiastic support. The 15th, we've got, and actually there's another aspect with Venus on the 24th. So there are 2 challenging aspects with Venus this month, the 15th and the 24th, that are going to bring, some tension, either with self-esteem, aesthetics, appearance, romance, your relationships in general of any kind, or money. So there's pressure put on Venus this month, and you'll see that come up in little or big ways. Then we have a nice aspect on August 20th with the Sun trining Uranus. So sometimes sudden insights and exhilarating awarenesses or experiences could come in with that. On the 21st, we've got this very powerful new moon solar eclipse at almost 29 degrees of Leo. So this is the second new moon in Leo that we have, which adds a lot of power. Also, new moon solar eclipses are like new openings in triplicate, just as full moons are closings, endings, drama, conclusions, 3 times as powerful as a regular full moon. The new moon eclipses have the opening energies and the new energies 3 times that of a regular new moon. And this is a beautiful new moon. We've got a beautiful aspect with Uranus, which brings, more surprises, happy surprises. Then we have a beautiful aspect with Saturn, which brings, again, this long-term stable factor, which seems to be a theme this month, like certain things starting to click in for future security. And so when you have a solar eclipse, it's an opening. And when you have a solar eclipse in Leo, it has to do with openings in creativity. So anything having to do with children. But for some people, their creative projects are their children. So whether you're conceiving a child or conceiving a creative idea, that process of conception to pregnancy to birth to child or project rearing is all dominated by Leo. So there's going to be lots of new openings there. And for people who already have children, new experiences and, dimensions of parenting. There's also energy associated with athleticism, acting, modeling, directing, fun hobbies, true love. Many, many, many people are going to enter new dimensions of romance with this aspect, which is really exciting. So we've got that on the 21st, and on the 22nd, we have Mars in Leo trining Saturn and Sag. And again, this is a nice boost where action and outcomes blend beautifully. We've got a nice aspect on August 23rd to the 24th with Venus and Chiron, which shows that when we do emotional inner work, in those places where we're wounded, it brings positive gains. On the 24th, so simultaneously with this nice aspect with Chiron, we have a square with Uranus. I alluded to this earlier when I talked about the difficult aspect with Venus on the 15th. When Venus squares Uranus, the bringer of change in a feisty expression in Aries, makes an uncomfortable angle to love, money, and aesthetics. So there's many ways that can look, So definitely having the Venus in Cancer is going to promise emotional jostling from this unpredictable Uranus energy. August 25th, Saturn goes direct at 21 degrees of Sag. This officially ends the break that we've had as Saturn was in retrograde. Saturn is a chop buster. That's what I always call Saturn. Saturn wants discipline, it's a taskmaster, and it wants organization and it wants hard work. And that type of energy doesn't blend well with Sagittarius, the sign that it's in, because Sag is all about free flowing and, not being consistent and all the things that we love about Sagittarius don't mix well with the energy of Saturn. So we've had a break from Saturn kind of forcing us to take these big Sag ideals and dreams and do the hard work, consistent work for bringing those dreams down into the third dimension. We've had a little break from that, but now the break is over. So for the rest of the year, we're going to have to get our nose back to the grindstone and take the daily steps to bringing the dreams into fruition. So when Saturn moves through Sag, it's also a serious faith tester, so we've got the rest of the year for Saturn to sort of weigh heavy on faith, but the more you can stay connected to faith throughout this Saturn transit, the better it will be. And then we end off with a nice aspect with the Sun and Mercury, but that can also mean some powerful criticism, the same aspects that can be something positive, like some bright news, when the Sun and Mercury join together, they enhance each other's qualities. There could be some powerful news that comes in, but Virgo is also really critical. So there could be some harsh criticism that comes in too. So just keep your head up with that. So if you would love to have astrology, to learn astrology in a visceral way, a way that helps you to blend more naturally with the planetary rhythms, then maybe you'll love to take my astrology apprenticeship program. You can see more about it on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Click on work with me. Whether you want to use astrology for your own personal developments or to help your friends and family and yourself to understand karmic patterns, understand what your highest expression is in this lifetime and how you overcome the karmic patterns to step into that, even if you want to do it professionally, then check out my astrology apprenticeship program. If you'd like to be a coach, a wellness coach, a business coach, a spiritual coach of any kind, helping people to reach their goals, then maybe you will love my coach course, which is also enrolling. And that's also combined with my online business course so that you can help create a presence online and develop your coaching business for an online basis. So check that out, anniehelpsyou.com. Also check out my husband B.R. Newman's new tarot reports for each sign. You can look him up, B.R. Newman, Neumann. IamHelios.com is his website. So you can see what he says about your sign as far as the tarot report, and that supplements what I've just shared with you. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.